Going live. Hey everybody, it's Leslie Rhoda with Marcus Brain Trust, and we're live actually on time, I know, just to keep you guessing. And so I'm joined today, left to right on your screen, the Corey Burke there on the left, and then Dan Thies in black and white, and then
Howdy.
followed by actually slightly less color than she normally, provides, but
Oh,
it
down
is,
here. It's all down here.
but there is like rainbow on it, and that's
Yeah.
Are we going to get the link for those T-shirts in the chat?
Oh God, please not. Anyway, so Michelle Chan Stangthong sporting a T-shirt
Yeah.
with farting rainbows. Yeah. Okay.
Well, yeah.
Good.
There's
The
that.
rainbows are farting?
No, it's the unicorn that's farting, and the rainbow is just the product of that, Leslie.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's where rainbows come from, apparently. The new
I love
mythology
it.
we're working on.
I
So
love it. I love it. That's the new. That's the whole new campaign for the next campaign.
yeah.
Where
So
rainbows come from.
where rainbows come from. So with that said, Dan is actually going to, speaking of rainbows and pots of gold at the end. Dan is going to walk through today, how to. I think the proper technical terminology is budgetize and spendicize on your AdWords campaigns.
Well, hopefully not without planetizing a little bit first.
You want to actually address
Or
the
you
entire
spendizing.
planet, which would be planetizing. Yes, because we have got to target the right geography.
A
So
lot of people do planetize, and that's a very bad decision.
that's a very bad decision. I mean, there may be somebody out there moonetizing, for all I know, right? Totally getting the geography wrong.
If
right?
anyone gets there, Google will stand ready to show them ads.
I'm sure they will. Yeah, and maybe if there are no people there, Google will still show them ads. It was your idea. We're not doing evil. Okay, so Dan, why don't you just get into the actual presentation? Let's see.
Okay.
I should point you at everybody.
You
Present
can
to
point
everyone.
me at everybody, and I
You are
will.
now pointed at everybody.
Okay.
Thereby saving bandwidth because there's no color depth.
Right. Okay. So here's what we're doing. So I am presenting to everyone, and it says stop. So that means go is what's happening. I have to do my screen share thing here, and that
Yeah.
means, unfortunately, sorry guys,
Hall of
you
mirrors.
get to see the Hall of Mirrors. Close your eyes
Love the Hall of mirrors.
so you don't get dizzy. Here
I
we
get
go.
lost in the Hall of mirrors.
Okay.
That's
And
really
now,
cool.
and now,
There
there
we
we
are.
go.
We see your screen, full screen.
So what we're going to be talking about today here is planning and budgeting for paid search campaigns. Now, I'm going to do the on-screen part of this session using Google's keyword planner, but there's a Bing keyword planner too, and well, there aren't any more search engines left. So, well, sort of Yahoo, but you probably aren't. Well, if we're talking about planning and budgeting, we're not at Yahoo yet. So the first thing I think we need to understand before we dive in and start, cranking around and getting numbers here is to understand that there are certain trade-offs that are simply unavoidable in search advertising. And so, a lot of the time people want to know, well, how can I get buy with the lowest budget? How can I get, the cheapest clicks and stuff like that? And that's really not even the right way to think about it in terms of the price per click. Your goal should be to find profits there. And so let's just walk through this short series of truths so that you understand what we're dealing with. So your ads are going to get more impressions and more clicks if you bid more per click. So if you take any keyword you want to and you bid a penny, well, you can only bid, I think, 5 cents these days at the low end. Or if you bid $5, the difference is that you're going to get more impressions. That is to say, you're going to have more search queries that actually happen where your ad's going to be eligible to show up because you're paying enough. And also, you're going to get more views on your ad if you move up higher on the page, right? So it's not just about impressions in terms of the way that they get statistically counted by Google, but also how many people actually see your ad, because I can guarantee you, you don't want clicks from people that didn't see your ad. And fortunately, you won't get very many clicks from people that don't see your ad. But as a result of that, you're also going to get more clicks if you bid more per click. So on the one hand, it's a little bit of a double-edged sword, right? I raise my bid and my cost per click likely goes up, but guess what also goes up? The number of clicks. And of course, right, you bid more per click, your clicks will cost more. But the good news with AdWords and Bing Words and even the Yahoo thing, that well, most of us will just participate in that through Bing and not bother with Yahoo's platform directly for a long time. But everything can be improved by testing, because the way that AdWords and Bing actually function with search ads is that the amount that you pay is not just a function of how much you bid, but also a function of your click-through rate. So a higher click-through rate means that you can actually get more impressions, more views on your ad, and more clicks without increasing the cost per click. So everything can be improved by testing. That is to say, if you have two ads that you think are pretty good and you're ready to go, well, that's great. One of them will actually prove to be better, at least some of the time, and the other one might prove to be better at other times. But you're going to have one winner and one loser, and by stacking up a series of split tests of ads over time, you can actually get the same result in terms of higher position on the page, more impressions, more views, more clicks, that you would have gotten by simply jumping in with a ridiculously high bid to start with. So everything can be improved by testing, but to give people a rough scientific definition of testing, Leslie, it means doing stuff and collecting data until you can actually make a decision between two alternatives. And that means that if you're not willing to be aggressive, that is to say, if you're not willing to start off by bidding to the top of the page or very near to the top of the page, certainly into the top few positions, you're going to be in for a very long ride, because the testing is going to take a very long time. And that's because when your ad is down farther down toward the bottom of the page, and particularly as it drops down the right-hand rail in the current format of Google search result pages and Bing as well, you start to see a significant drop-off in click-through rates. If your ad is below the fold, you're going to see a huge drop in the number of viewable impressions. That is to say, your ad's sort of on the page, but it's not actually on their screen. And so they can't actually see it, they can't actually click it, and so you see a rapid decline in the number of actual potential clicks, and you see a rapid decline in the click-through rate. So yes, can you get clicks cheaper down there? Sure. But you're not going to get as many of them, which means that you're going to essentially get into a place where you can't test fast enough to keep up with the competition. Now, I've had people say, well, if it's a really high volume keyword where there's really lots and lots and lots of impressions available, even at a lower position, you can still get some clicks. Sure, but you still have to keep in mind that that you're in a very high volume environment, which tends to mean it's a very competitive environment. The competitors who are farther up the page are testing at a much higher speed than you are. Whereas you might be able to, even under a super high volume conditions, you might be able to do a test every month with lower positions farther down the page. The competition is concluding a test every single week, which means that in the great primordial soup of AdWords competition, the sharks are evolving a heck of a lot faster than you are, and you're starting to look more and more like delicious tuna to them.
Well, now, and Dan, is it true in general in AdWords, as it is in search, that in search the actual clicks by a position declines really dramatically, huge power.
Yeah, exactly, and for the same reasons, right? And also you also have to keep in mind that the value of those clicks, the conversion rate, unless you're doing something that's very, very different from everyone else on the search result page, the quality of the traffic is likely to decline as well, because people that have gotten that far down are still not satisfied with anything that they've seen. That's why they scrolled to get farther down the page, and so your ad being there, it might be a lucky happenstance that they weren't even looking at the ads, and then they look over and yours is there. But more likely what really happened is nothing really interested in them that much, and maybe your ad was just vague enough to get a click, or any number of other reasons. But the fact is, whether it's a lead generation response where the decline isn't quite so precipitous in terms of conversion rate, or in retail where we see the conversion rate, the value per conversion rapidly drop as you move down the page, you lose more than just clicks as you go down the page. But yeah, it is very much like organic search, where the farther down we go, the worse it gets. And by the way, I mean, that's one of the reasons to be considering paid search at this point if you're trying to keep your business growing, because especially for retailers, those shopping boxes at the top of the page with product ads in them, those tend to take the lion's share of clicks, including clicks away from organic search, as soon as they appear against a particular keyword. And so if you're not there, most of the traffic that's available from that search result page is unavailable to you. So anyway, let's just for now summarize all of that by what my horrible, evil baseball coach told me once. He said, "Winners play to win." He was a jerk, but he was also right. And if you want to win in this game, you're going to have to at least make an attempt, an early attempt at playing to win. Now, the amazing thing that we find over and over again is that this is not a saturated channel by any means. Now, there's certainly bidders on every keyword with commercial relevance, and there are people out there trying, but even the ones that are trying and think they're doing a good job are, in a lot of cases, missing out on a lot. But today we're here to figure out how much is enough to actually be able to get in there, play to win, give yourself a chance to figure out where the profits are, so that you just don't just go in and spend some money and your testing is going too slow and you never reach a conclusion until you run out of money. How much money is enough? And to really understand that, we have to talk about the different phases that you go through, and I don't want to spend a whole bunch of time here, because really what we're talking about today is the discovery phase. This is absolutely what we're going to focus on. We're going to talk about the second phase, which is the pursuit of profit, when you start to actually have enough data about particular keywords or particular product categories, or whatever the case may be, depending on what we're working on with your campaigns, where you can start to say, okay, hey, we're making some money here. And it's really sort of a gradual transition from phase 1 to phase 2, where at some point you probably don't have very much money, if any, tied up in discovery, and almost all of your money is tied up in the pursuit of profit, or in the further phases like optimization and expansion. And all of these things are driven they're essentially a function of how much data you're able to collect as you go. And so again, we have to be able to spend enough to collect enough data in order to make the discovery phase pay off for you and have some profits for you to be able to pursue. And so how much do we need to spend? How much would you need to spend if you wanted to actually make an attempt at building up AdWords or paid search in general as a sizable channel? So just quickly here, if you're not making money at all, if you don't have any keywords that are profitable for you, if you don't have any product categories or any of that stuff that's profitable, you're in phase 1. You are in the discovery phase, even if you've been running campaigns for years, okay? So if you're not at a stage where we can say this here is definitely profitable and that there is definitely profitable, and we can work on expanding those and optimizing those, that's you're really in this first phase. And in almost everybody that I encounter is to some degree still in phase 1, even if they do have a few things where we can start to pursue profits. They really don't know very much. And so let's figure out, what does the budget look like, and how can you actually figure out what the budget would be for a particular site. So what you need in terms of a budget, first of all, you're going to need to have enough to do real testing, and to me that's a minimum of somewhere around 1,000 clicks per month to be able to actually run real testing and make real conclusions over the course of a month about where things are going. You might have to do this for more than 1 month to get to a state where you're really actively pursuing profits more than you're pursuing the opportunities to make a profit. But you're going to need to be able to produce somewhere around 1,000 clicks per month, and that really means, when you boil it down, about 30 or 40 per day. If you want to do rapid testing, that is to say, we're going to break into this market and we're going to break back into AdWords, and we've done this with a number of clients where we start off with a pretty darned aggressive budget to start with. And to me, I mean, this is always the best way to do it if you can afford to do it, because you're going to find profits faster if you can do rapid testing. But that's more like 1,000 clicks per week. So we're now talking about budgeting for 150 clicks a day or more, and that's just to run the test within whatever container we're doing. So we're not talking about throwing 10,000 keywords in and getting 150 clicks per day across 10,000 keywords. We're talking about focusing in on 1 or 2 and getting that many clicks so that we can actually test ads against those keywords and figure out what's going on. in shopping campaigns, it's a little bit easier to ramp up at a lower budget and find profits and stuff like that. They're kind of a special case because Google does a lot of the work for you on keyword filtering and targeting, and also because we can do a lot of little hacks, as we've shown a few times over the course of our Hangouts over the last several months, that allow us to filter out a lot of low-value keywords so that the majority of your budget going into a shopping campaign actually goes into profitable keywords. What we're really talking about here today is search ads. And so, yeah, can you do test firing? Could you say, hey, we're going to spend $300 on this keyword with this pair of ads, and see how that goes, and we're going to let that run for a week, and then we're going to take stock and make a decision? Yeah, I mean, we do that all the time. It just takes time. And so can you do this on kind of a burst basis where you run a test, figure out what's going on? Yes, but still, ultimately, what you're still going to have to be able to budget for is at least a few weeks of that rapid-fire testing, so around 150 per day. There's really no point in trying to do rapid-fire sequence testing on the cadence of a test every month or two. At that point, you're really not moving fast enough to do anything but catch up to the tail end of what the competition is doing. And to win this thing, you actually have to outperform them. By the way, that's not as hard as it sounds. It's not all that hard with a few rounds of testing to have ads that are almost certainly doing better than the vast majority of your competitors' ads, if not all of them. And with the other things, and we'll talk about some of those once we get done with the live stuff, there really are a lot of optimizations that you can apply to take advantage of inefficiencies in the way others run their AdWords campaigns, which means that you can take an unfair share of the profits and let them do an unfair share of the spending, which, if you think about it, it's only unfair to them. So perfectly fair in the competition of business, right? So let's jump into to AdWords and actually look at the AdWords keyword planner here next. And so we're going to briefly go into the Hall of Mirrors, I think. Maybe not. Okay, that's not the Hall of Mirrors, right? Is it? I don't know. I can't see. I'm not allowed to look at it. But hopefully now we're looking at the AdWords keyword planner in our test account. And so this is up under the Tools menu in your AdWords account, and you do need to actually create an AdWords account in order to use the keyword planner. But if you don't have an AdWords account, well, they don't really need you to commit to spending a ton of money to get one, and it's certainly worth getting one set up so that you can start to do the work. You don't actually need to create campaigns or any of that kind of stuff. But to use the keyword planner, in fact, most of the time, this is where you would start if you were doing it Google's way to actually build your campaign. Now, I don't want to get into why you don't want to just take big buckets of keywords and throw them into big bucket ad groups, because we've gone over that with the AdWords triangulation method. And if you missed that, you can go back and watch all that stuff on our YouTube channel at youtube.com/marketersbraintrust, I think. So there are a couple of different things that you can do with this. What I'm going to start with here is the find new keywords. This is just going to be an assumption based on the fact that you have no idea what the keywords are, and you can use this in a couple of different ways. One, you can do stuff like just say, I sell potatoes, and Google will go try and find keywords related to that. The results of that will really suck, and you'll want to do better than that. Your second choice is to put in the URL of a landing page. And now the nice thing about that is this can be a landing page on your site, or it can simply be a competitor's landing page, or the way that I like to do it, the landing pages of multiple competitors. That is to say, if whatever you sell, find the competition, find their best page for whatever you sell, and then slam that into the keyword tool and let Google extract the keywords from it for you. It'll save you the time of doing a bunch of work on that. And then here you can select a product category. So you can say, based on Google's rather coarse hierarchy, that I'm in the home and garden home appliances business, and then I can choose from a whopping 4, so like 4 cleaners and accessories. And then you've got vacuums and hard floors, or you can just say that you're in all of those. Okay? And so now I've changed my category to floor cleaners and accessories. I'm going to go ahead and go back up and just say, oops, all categories here to eliminate this from. Actually, what the heck? I'll leave that one alone. And say that I'm actually going to go into the home improvement retailing business. And so I'm going to go and start off by looking at HomeDepot.com. Now, targeting options here, you definitely want to geographically limit it to whatever country. Pick one that is your primary market. Language, if the language matters. Google and search partners, may as well expand that so you get some more keyword data. And at this point, I wouldn't worry about adding in any of this other stuff. These things are nice, but they're not all that important at this stage because we're really just trying to come up with a rough idea of a budget. And believe it or not, refining refining the quality of your keyword research doesn't improve that very much. And so then let's go to just get ideas. And what Google's going to do is show us big numbers of searches here, and I'm going to actually have to decrease my magnification a little bit so that we can catch the whole thing in the screen here. I think I might be able to click that up by 1 and still get just one more. Okay. And see everything that's in there. So so I've got all my targeting set up, and there's a whole bunch of other options here, but really let's not worry about that right now. And so now let's look at what category we might actually be in. And so maybe I'm really focused on just the home repair segment. So what I'm going to do here is go to, and I'm just going to take everything under home repair, and you can actually click on that to expand out the whole list. And you know what? Those don't look like very good keywords. And so I'm going to look at home improvement. And so home improvement projects, home improvement stores, I could probably build landing pages around that. But really, home improvement stores is the keywords that I'd want for that. But excuse me. So I'm going to go ahead and just add that one. Okay. And what you'd really be after here is probably in something this large, more of a smaller category, but we'll go into some smaller categories as we get into some more specific niches as we do a couple more examples here. But for now, let's just use home improvement as an example because it'll work just fine for showing how we do this work. And so what we get now is over here in the plan section, Google gives us a range of bids for what we want to bid for the keywords in there. A daily forecast in terms of the number of clicks and in terms of the cost per click. Now, here's what you can do, and you can do this pretty safely. Is you can go ahead and take this top bid amount that they show you and cut that right about in half. So that was what, about $7 and change. So I'm going to take this and pull this back to about $3.60 because that's where the slider will let me get to. But what I'm also going to suggest you do is just move the bottom of this range all the way up there so that they're the same. And now what Google is going to do is forecast a number of clicks per day and a cost per click, and that will give you an amount that you'd probably want to budget. Now here's the good news. Google's going to underestimate the traffic that's available to you by about half. And they're actually going to underestimate or overestimate what it's going to cost you by about double. These are rules of thumb. They're not going to apply perfectly in everything, but you know what? It's been playing out pretty well for years. And so I can actually go ahead and slide this sucker back up to a little bit over 7. And now Google's telling me I can get about 7 clicks a day at about $36. And in fact, I can probably get about 7 clicks a day at about half of that. And so if I can find a few more categories of keywords that fit in, I can start to see where I might actually be able to make a plausible run at this. Now let's go, but mostly the reason why I just did this example so that you can see how the math over here in the slider works, and to make sure that you understand that you can cut the cost per click that Google estimates in half, and that's still realistic for you to be in the top area of the page and be able to do real testing. And you can about double what Google is going to tell you the number of available clicks is because, well, this thing has, and I don't know why, consistently underestimated the available search volume. So what let's do here now is I'm going to go back up to the top to the keyword planner, And come on. And I'm going to say start over because I don't want to see they've already got an ad group set up for me and everything else. So I'm going to jump back to the Hall of Mirrors for a second. So if everyone would like to avert their gaze. If anybody has an example of a market niche that they would like for me to look at, anything that maybe you're looking at for a prospective client or a market that you're in where you'd like to get some insights in terms of how to do the planning and budgeting. Well, that Hall of Mirrors thing just keeps going and going and going. If anybody wants to pop one into the chat and let me see that, we'll go with that. I'm going to jump back here and go ahead and start with one. And so here's a market that we looked at a while ago, and we aren't participating in right now. I don't have a horse in that race. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is start with what I just told you is scary, right? Is start with oops. Boy, this tool is fun to get used to with all this menu changes. But so I'm going to try and get search volume and trends. Actually, I'm going to get click and cost performance. And what I'm going to type in here for a search term is Medigap and Medicare supplement. And those are two search terms that are related to a particular kind of insurance. And I'm going to go ahead and leave this set to the United States, but we'll get to geography in a minute.
And Dan, if you'd like to continue with that one, or Brian would like to take a look at home mortgages in Atlanta.
And, home mortgages, okay. And we've got a geographic qualifier. Fantastic.
Yeah. And then Quincy said e-commerce store owners. I don't really. No, I guess he's selling stuff to e-commerce store owners.
Yeah, we would need to have some sense of what they were searching for.
Yeah, but and there are several other choices too here. So Tim was looking for in-home caregiving services.
Okay.
And then Robin suggested hypnosis for relationships, and Don wants to do dental implants. You've got a lot of choice to choose from now.
Okay, well, let's do this one just for fun as a starting point, because I want you to see how this little toy works, okay? And so what we've got here is an ad group with two keywords in it. Now, of course, you wouldn't actually create such a thing, my friends, but, I mean, please, my friends, do not create such a thing with these two keywords if you're going into this business. No matter what the client says, if they say you have to do that, they're just crazy. But what you can do here with the slider toy, and so right now we're targeting the entire United States, so we can just use the slider toy and have that just slide up based on what we're willing to bid per click. So if I go up to $5 on a max CPC, and it won't let me get to exactly $5, but 502 is close enough. Oh, okay, so it actually dropped at $4.99. So what am I now forecasting? So somewhere between 71 and 87 clicks per day. Remember, I can double that. And a cost of somewhere between $225 and $275. And I might start out there because this is a highly competitive market, but I can probably cut that more or less in half, at least relative to hitting that click volume that we just mentioned. And so that would give me a budget to do, well, some fairly aggressive testing, and somewhere between, I would say, $125, $150 to $300 per day would be a good range for that. And so for a few $1,000s per month, say $5,000 per month, I could actually do some fairly aggressive testing in order to enter this market. So the slider thing is really fun. And so the other thing that you get to do here is you actually get to see where the impressions come from, and you can do other dimensional looks here if it'll let me. So I can look at things like the Nielsen DMA regions. I can go into all kinds of different things. I can look at how that breaks down by device. And so if I look at mobile as a part of this volume, and I can actually play with the mobile bid adjustments and things like that. And so you can refine If you know things about, say, for example, my website sucks at converting mobile traffic, don't tell me that mobile traffic sucks. Just tell me that your website sucks at converting it. Because, by the way, you can get the mobile traffic for a fraction of what the desktop traffic will cost you in almost every market, and it's rarely more. You really can look at excuse me. You can look at that and even say I don't want to see mobile at all as part of this, and essentially eliminate mobile from the mix by playing with the mobile bid adjustment. I don't find that particularly useful in terms of a budgeting and forecasting. So let's go back and let's go all the way back to the top and start over with run some of the more promising ones of those by me again, Leslie.
Okay, well, it's yeah, and I think they're all kind of interesting. So,
dental implants.
Maybe not
cool.
e-commerce store owners. That is a little bit hard to figure out that what Quincy is thinking through there. But home mortgages in Atlanta,
okay,
in-home caregiving services, hypnosis for relationships might be kind of interesting because of the. I think there's a lot of negatives you have to consider. Dental implants, that would be a really high value market, right? Let's see, and Tim said Geo modifier Los Angeles in-home caregiving services. So he's added his Geo for that one.
Okay, so
just knock yourself out, Dan.
I don't know a whole boat ton about in-home caregiving services, so I would definitely want to start up here to do some keyword research and actually find a list of keywords to dump into here. Once I had done that, I would like to just dump the list of keywords in here. Now, by the way, if you've got data from Google Analytics, maybe some of it from organic search, whatever, going back years, so whether it's Google Analytics or other sources, if you've got lists of keywords and you can sort those based on which ones actually produce the most income for your business, you can use that as a starting point here. I'm not gonna go to that level, but let's go ahead and just do the mortgage thing. I'm curious to see what that Nielsen DMA region looks like. And I'm just going to put mortgage in here as a keyword, even though, well, that's a whole lot of stuff. But we're going to go with that for now. And I'm going to set the targeting, so I'm going to remove the United States and Atlanta. If I type in Atlanta, I believe I probably want it, not Atlanta, Idaho, even though it's a lovely place. I'm going to put the Nielsen DMA region in as my targeting parameter and save that. And I'm going to go ahead and just get forecasts on what that keyword mortgage, even though we're going to end up targeting more precise variations of that as we go on. And you can see, one, there's a little bit of what would we say here, discontinuity in the graph. That is, there are places where it jumps. And that means that you've essentially got here different tiers of bidders. And so the top tier here, which is likely the people playing around the top of the page, are looking at bids somewhere in the $7 range per click. And then your second tier would be people that are sort of the first page bid people. And then you got people that are probably down here getting being a little bit more choosy and a little bit more probably fishing for the lower quality traffic, and hopefully for them have some kind of plan for how to convert that, which, by the way, yes, you can. It's just more work on the site than just doing a really kick-butt landing page that says refinance your mortgage now and get $1 billion out, which is what my landing page is going to say. And because of that, I'm going to go ahead and set my bid to right around $7 per click. And again, this is one of those markets where it's highly competitive, so you're probably going to be looking at having to punch in this weight class or higher to get in there. That is to say, you might have people that are bidding a heck of a lot more than this to protect their position up here, and so it might cost you more than you might need to do more than an $8 bid to break in to start with. But you should be able to, with a little bit of testing and just a little bit of giving Google some history on your ads that they don't completely stink, which, by the way, if that's easy to do, look at what's on the search result page, and it's not that hard to write ads that are better than some of the generic stuff that people put into these things. In fact, what the heck? Let's look at that search result page just for fun, shall we? No, I can't easily without switching to another tool that screws up this one. So, but here we can see at a bid of around $7, I should be expecting that I could get 40 to, we'll go ahead and say 40 to 80 clicks a day at a cost of around well, somewhere around $200 a day, right in the middle. And so I can, again, I can assume that I can double my clicks at the same cost, or I can cut my cost in half and get that same number of clicks fairly easily. And at some point, with significant optimization, I should be able to actually reach a point where I've doubled both. Again, that's not going to be the case in every market, but that's something that if you're willing to last the distance and do the testing, it's not unrealistic to get to. So, I'm sorry, who was that from, Leslie?
I'm looking. Hang on. That was from Brian. That was Brian.
So Brian, somewhere in that ballpark, would I be willing to attack this market at $700 a week? Yeah. Would I rather have twice that much? Yeah. Would I expect to spend more than twice that much? That is, say, would I expect to go over, say, $200 a day? I wouldn't advise trying to do that, because then you're really just overpaying for data, and you'd much rather at least keep some of your powder dry. Now, if it turns out that we can, acquire leads with a 20% conversion rate and $7 a click don't sound that bad at that, because now we're paying $35 per mortgage lead, and if you're happy with that math, shoot, shoot, Bubba, let's go ahead and shoot some more, right? But but somewhere in that range, somewhere I would say probably between $3,000 to $6,000 per month is kind of on the high end of what you'd want to budget for testing. But just bearing in mind that that you want to at least have the flexibility to make a decision to swing toward the high side of that in a highly competitive market, because you might have one or two players here that are simply willing to buy that spot for ego reasons and are actually making their money somewhere else and burning it here over vanity. And also, again, this is a super course, right? We're talking about one keyword broad match, and so your ability to leverage better keyword selection and figuring out what's going on. You might want to burn for a week at just mortgage as a keyword, and then go into the search terms dimension and find out what keywords are actually performing best for you in terms of conversion rate, and then get rid of that broad match entirely and go after a couple of exact matches with the same budget, because then you'd be performing multiple tests in the course of a week. You're going to probably be spending less per click to do that, and so that's kind of where I'd look at the budget for that one going. So Leslie, you said something about in-home care, which I don't know a whole lot, so I'm going to kind of skip out on it. That's something I'd really want to have a conversation with somebody about, so I can understand the market better before I started throwing out budgets. But for the, again, is that from Quincy? Quincy, I mean, if you know the market, this is you can use this.
No, Quincy was e-commerce store owners. Yeah, Tim was in-home caregiving, Los Angeles. John added one a little bit late, bath and body products. That's a pretty wide market. And then Don had said dental implants.
Let's look at dental implants, because that's one that, well, gosh, that's a market that I'd love to play in, because,
it's really high.
I guarantee you that the competition is mostly idiots, because that's how it is in every medical niche I've ever walked into. It seems like sometimes the more money there is, the more that that the advertisers out there are just getting exploited by people that focus on the vertical and learn the lingo. They learn how to sell to a dentist, but they don't actually know how to run AdWords to, well, I guess they're saving their lives or saving somebody's money. Anyway, let's look at that one. And so for that one, I'm not sure if that's one that people would actually travel for. I bet Canadians would probably travel for it, but I'm going to go ahead and leave this just to say Atlanta for now. And what else? Gosh, what other search terms? I guess dental implant or dental implants. I'm going to use both, even though they're going to functionally be the same thing at Google. That's just old superstition. But I'm going to go ahead and get forecasts. on that and see what Google tells me. And so this is one where I bet the bids per click are a little bit higher than they were for mortgages. So we've got some folks in here playing either for ego or otherwise. And I'm going to go ahead and pick my bid way up at the top here, just because I also want to buy the top spot. So we're looking about the same thing here. And so for dental implants for a DMA like Atlanta, we're probably looking at something where you might be testing a little bit slower, but this looks like a plausible market to attack locally. You're probably looking at slower ad testing process, which for me means being a little bit more aggressive about the ad testing, so that we might test an ad that essentially we've got try twice to hit a home run and not try and figure out the subtle variations between two, because one path is going to tend to produce better results, and you can find that out faster by taking your best shot at it. So we're talking about not necessarily testing the headline of the ad, because that's probably going to be something as simple as dental implant surgeon. But by the way, that's with enough room in characters there, you can do better than that probably. But more testing what's in the next two lines of copy, particularly the first line under the headline. And but overall, if we could double this number of clicks, we're right in the ballpark, somewhere 25 to 30 per day, and that's just on scratching the surface of what the keyword potential is here. I'm sure there are other ways that people talk about these things that I don't know about, and there's a very good chance that things like tooth replacement or whatever is more along the lines of what people are looking for, or they might be looking for older things like capping or stuff like that, right? But where you can say, yeah, sure, you could get that done, or you could do this, which is better. And so again, right, you'd have to do the math on what you'd expect a landing page to convert at, but I mean, I would assume these patients are worth somewhere in the hundreds to thousands range, and so if we can get a 10% conversion rate at a landing page, that makes them cost about 50 or 60 bucks per lead, and I'd be willing to bet that most of these surgeons that do this stuff would probably be willing to pay at least twice that much, and a lot of cases more, depending on how their business operations are that go along with their practice and all that kind of stuff. But this looks like one where even for what I would call, and Leslie, I'm sure that everybody in Atlanta is going to scream at me that it's the whatever largest market in the world, but again,
it's not. I mean, that's
local markets tend to be fairly small, no matter how big the location is. I mean, if you think of New York City, ooh, big city, but that's actually not that big of a market compared to those that can market their stuff worldwide. And you might look at, in this case, let's say you're doing this in Atlanta. There's people all over Georgia, and in fact, all over the place where it's either I don't know, Southwest doesn't go to Atlanta, right? But there's that other cheap airline that does, that I like to use, AirTran, I think.
Yeah, and Don says that mostly local market, and he says it's about $2K per tooth. So yeah.
Wow. Okay, so my bid is now $80, and I'm gonna.
Right.
Seriously, gosh, let's find out who does this in Atlanta, because this market looks like not competitive enough yet.
And almost any
we can help them fix that.
Really good. And I would say that you also want to look for what are the presenting conditions, like I got my teeth knocked out, how to replace a tooth, how to deal with this broken tooth. The kind of things that lead to the solution.
During the discovery phase, we tend to look at what's the obvious, like wallet out, calendar out, ready to set an appointment, ready to become a lead as the starting point, and then you can kind of expand to that other stuff later. And yeah, I mean, you're right. There's probably more opportunity in all of that than there is in this. But if you can't make this work, that stuff is not going to work either.
Agreed. Well, let's answer a couple of these. There's some general questions people have asked here from both Quincy and Shira. And then we've got time, looking at a couple of the other markets I think would be useful too for folks. So Quincy asked, and this is an overarching question. Do you use the same process to search for keywords for Bing campaigns?
So here's how I look at Bing. And again, we're not dealing with multi-million-dollar per month advertisers here. I mean, our advertisers have 4 and 5 figure budgets per month, not 6 and 7 figure budgets per month. Although some of them have, are coming awfully close to 7 figure budgets at this point. But that's after right. It's a long road before you get there. You've got to typically grow the thing a lot, and that's many phases down the road. But in terms of Bing, I don't look at Bing as a starting point. We will certainly, if we're doing shopping campaigns, we'll like to get up and running on Bing as quickly as we can once we learn enough from what we do on Google to figure out whether that's a low risk profitable move or not. But the search keywords and all that stuff really aren't that different between Bing and Google. It's just that Google has a hell of a lot more data than Bing does. And so what we tend to do with Bing is we will get stuff through the first couple of phases on Google, and then we'll port it to Bing and manage it from there. But we don't tend to do separate keyword discovery and all that stuff on Bing, just because it's an exercise that's really again, unless we're dealing with very high volume, where Bing sort of looks like Google does to a smaller advertiser, there really isn't much reason to do anything on that side from my perspective. But they do have, I mean, the keyword planning tools over at Bing are, like a lot of things in Bing, almost a complete knockoff of what Google is doing, generally trailing by weeks or months what Google has already done.
Well, the advantage of this, of course, is you reuse the research you did at Google and you just pour it over Bing. Yeah.
And really, it's as I've been saying for years, and sometimes in ways that make people mad. But the keywords are the keywords. So go and finding tools like SpyFu and all that kind of stuff. Figure out which competitors might or might not be advertising on. Whatever. That doesn't change what keywords I need to advertise on. The keywords that are going to attract the people I want are the keywords that are going to attract the people I want, regardless of what any competitor is doing. And once I get into advertising, my intention is to sweep the competition out of the way, squish them under my boot, and then laugh while I'm eating their lunch. And so I really don't care what they're advertising on until I get down to what ad am I going to put on this particular search result for this particular keyword. But in terms of deciding what keywords I'm going to target, whatever. It's in the same way. It's whatever the data over at Bing says. It's not any more reliable than the data at Google, which, as we've just seen, is not right. I mean, I've just given you a factor of 2 as a fudge factor. Either way, tending toward usually being in your favor, and that's because we can typically outperform the rest of the market. So I want to talk about that stuff real quickly, and then we'll do as many kind of examples as we can.
Well, let's answer one more question while
Sure.
it's here in the chat, because otherwise it'll scroll out. So, and this does relate to the one you just did. So if the business target page is a local business, do you need to add geo-targeted keywords? I think the answer is yes to that.
No.
Oh, no. Okay. Sorry.
Well, maybe, but air conditioner repair is something that I have searched for in the last 10 years, and in fact, twice that led to transactions. In neither case did I need to type in my zip code for Google to show me ads from people that were local to me.
No, not in the search. The Shira is asking here in terms of really. If you're researching a local business, so advertising for a local business, you really should add the geo in that or not?
No.
Just like
okay. So let's go and reduce this to practical cases in the tool. So I've got a geographic target here.
Mm-hmm.
I don't need that in the keywords, because if somebody types in dental implant, Woodstock, Georgia, maybe you've decided you'd like to get tusks put in. I bet those cost a couple $1,000. Wouldn't that be cool, though, to have tusks?
That'd be different.
I'm saying maybe we can trade some AdWords work for some tusks. I'll get them if you don't. One of us should have tusks.
You should.
But dental implant Woodstock or dental implant whatever your frickin' zip code is that I always have to try and remember when I'm filling out forms. It's got a 3 in it, I think. those are all included in this because because this is a broad match based tool. So it's all in that big wad of search queries that these would actually unpack to. So if I set this to just exact match, then I would be ruling out anything that included local variations. But all those are included in the data here, so I don't really need to try and figure out what all those are. And really, most people don't. If you actually go and mine through, the search terms dimension data, part of it is Google weeds some of that localizing stuff out, but not very much of it. And there really just isn't that much of it compared to people that just type in my air conditioner's busted, and they're lucky that people know how to geo-target so they can find what they want.
Okay, and Shira confirms that you are answering the right question, and kind of the follow-up was, unless they are researching from out of region, I guess, and I guess that's...
Yeah, and in that case, we hope that your location settings are set to include people in the target location, which is not the default, by the way. So
yeah, right.
It's for Google to show your ads to people that had ever visited a website that's located in your area.
Right. So if I'm on travel in San Diego and I'm researching how to get my, air conditioning repaired in Atlanta, that's a completely different deal.
That would be one where you've got you might, and this would be part of the expansion and not part of the core operation, but you might run a nationwide campaign that includes actual localizing keywords. In that case, then for those you'd want to exclude people that were in Atlanta so that you could bid whatever nickel or whatever that's worth, right?
Gotcha. Okay. All right. So now, so I just wanted to get those questions done, before we.
But yeah, in general, almost every market, the volume on those is going to be insignificant and really encompassed by this. And again, right, we're not talking about predicting how much we're going to make here, because that is very dependent on conversion rate and other stuff that's sort of under your control, but also sort of not, right? But to give you a sense of how much would I need to budget to actually find out, how much do I need to actually put into this in order to give it a go. And I mean, again, it's so many of these markets are so much less competitive than you think once you actually get in there and realize there might it's rare for me to see more than one or two, and it's really in a lot of cases one is a little bit surprising. To find one advertiser that's really got it dialed in, and they're a major competitive threat. And that doesn't mean you're not going to have to spend some money to test your way past them, but just that they're going to be looking like they're standing still as you're accelerating if you can keep it up. But again, right, if you can make the budget for discovery, you should be able to last the distance. So
okay, great. Okay, good. Thanks, Dan.
A couple things I wanted to just talk about in terms of giving people a little bit of taste of what else can they do, and that's so. This is the exact same slide I used, I think, last week almost. Is that success in online advertising is 100% about improving your odds over the competitors' odds. So that just means that as you sort of tilt the odds in your favor, what that tends to do is it tends to mean that they continue to spend bad money while the money that you're spending gets better and better. And so, testing ads and all that stuff is important. And by the way, that is the core of doing this stuff well. But also, as you're doing that, as you're finding wins in ads, you can also start to tilt the odds in a couple of other ways that are fairly useful. So, geographical variations is one. And by the way, this will affect you positively or negatively sometimes, depending on the geography, but there's always inefficiency and always advantage that you can take out of it. And so for retailers, shipping is one of many things that make geographical variations matter, right? But also, it's the ice makers to Eskimos. Actually, I think most of those folks probably live indoors and probably want an ice maker on their refrigerator just as much as you do, because even if there is ice outside, or their house is made out of ice, they probably don't feel like going out with an ice pick and chipping it away when they could just push the button and get ice. But they might not need as high capacity an ice maker as somebody does in a place like Texas, which, the relative temperature between Texas and hell has actually equalized now. And so we're at exactly, it is hot as hell here. Oh my God. Of course, we are going to need a bigger ice maker because we're going to use lots of ice in our drinks, and we're going to do that for many months out of the year. Oh, well, guess what? All right, if we're talking about ice makers, the demand for those is probably higher in the summer than it is in the winter, and that's a temporal variation, which we'll get to in a second. But even if you don't have that, wherever you're shipping from, there's going to be a certain range away from you where A, your shipping costs are lower. Even if you offer free shipping, it ain't free to you, right? And B, the shipping time is less, which means that you've got people that are happier and more likely to become repeat customers. And so, for example, basically anywhere that you ship from in the United States, there's a certain radius where UPS or FedEx ground shipping, and it's different between UPS and FedEx, by the way, but there's a certain radius where ground shipping is a next day delivery. That is, if you get it out by whatever the normal pickup time is for you, your customer is going to receive it almost every time the next day. And so if you're trying to deal with one, improving the odds of success, you could focus geographically down to just that most advantageous area. And if you do that, and you can actually get very complicated with the geographic targeting by adding multiple locations using the keyword tool, you might find that, okay, I can't make that budget at those per click rates and make all that stuff fit nationwide, but within a geographic area. In fact, we just brought on a new shopping client that I think I'm meeting with in a couple of days to get them kicked off, where they're essentially creating a regional brand. And it's not that they can't ship to anywhere in the United States, it's that there are significant advantages because of their business and being able to deliver the next day, right? That makes Amazon's 2-day free shipping not all that important. And so we're focusing on first the stuff where we can deliver the next day, and then we're going to expand to places where we can deliver in 2 days. And then we're probably going to stop for quite a long time until we can get new shipping centers up online in those other areas. But you can actually operate as a sort of a quasi-regional brand. And by the way, you can also create a regional brand if you are capable of creating a brand at all. And that is, you can actually create a clone of your site that says proudly serving Maine and proudly serving Texas, even though it's just based on where you ship from, right? And there's also, again, going to be variation in competition and demand. So there might be some cases where you've got competitors that are regional players that are stronger. You might also have some that are weaker that it's easy to step on, and there are going to be variations in demand. But understanding what those things are, one from just using your brain powers of thinking and looking at search result pages, but also from the data that you collect from testing aggressively enough, right? From actually putting in enough to actually do the job of testing over the course of weeks or months, somewhere in that ballpark of being able again to get 1,000 clicks a month or being able to get 1,000 clicks a week. You want to be able to be somewhere in that ballpark. I would prefer to be on the more aggressive end of that if I can, but not everybody can, and that doesn't mean that you can't play. But if you can't run tests over the course of a month, you're just not playing anymore. But the good news here is that when everyone sort of defaults to everywhere, right? And by the way, Google, if you just start setting up campaigns, they'll default as showing your ads to every country in the world. Right, people that are doing that are bleeding money out, spending on clicks from Vietnam or whatever. People that have screwed up their geographic settings in their campaign because they left it at the default that Google leaves you and didn't set it to limit it to just the people that are actually in the location you're trying to target. There's a lot of inefficiency in there that you can exploit, and that's one of the ways that we're able to say, hey, yeah, you can really get more clicks at a lower cost per click than what they say. It's partly testing, but it's also just tilting the odds in your way geographically. And by the way, even if it's not a big deal to you that shipping costs more, and it's not a big deal to you that stuff is going to take longer to ship, it's a big deal to your customers even if they don't say it. And so being able to say, because you've targeted people geographically, free one-day shipping in the tri-state area or whatever the heck the area is called can make a difference in the performance of your ads. It can make a difference in the performance of how your site converts, and that can be a huge difference. And also, and of course, as I mentioned, in lifetime value, those people that get their stuff faster are much more likely to buy from you than people that are slow. And for different businesses, obviously, this will make more or less difference. And some businesses are inherently local and have to be for regulatory or other practical reasons. But, by the way, that doesn't mean that your competitors aren't advertising all over the freaking country, even though they shouldn't be. So, another way that we talk about tilting the odds, that really can tilt the odds quite a bit, is by understanding temporal variances. So things like there might be better days of the week when people are more likely to actually convert than other days, different times of day when people are more likely to convert. There's holidays that come in, weather, that's actually somewhere between a temporal variance and an event, and events, by the way. I mean, we talked to somebody last year that sells, I don't know, it's crap for dancing, dance apparel and shoes and stuff like that, but they saw a spike in search volume and in sales when the new season of Dancing with the Stars started. And so, people that said, I want to be a ballroom dancer or whatever, and went and bought a bunch of, I don't even know what the heck you buy for that stuff. They were selling dresses and shoes and junk like that, but I can imagine that there's all kinds of other assorted accoutrements that go with that to make you a proper trying to be a ballroom dancer, dance person. And there are also going to be differences in the performance of keywords, in the performance of ads, in the performance of different offers on different times of day and different days of the week. And as a starting point, you can focus in on which are the most profitable and productive ones for you. I mean, we have run stuff where we test 2 days a week with high intensity, and those are the only 2 days that we run, and that's the way that we actually get the clicks that we want, do the testing that we want to do. But we we don't really necessarily change how much we have to spend, but we can change how productive it is by limiting down to particular days of the week when we're going to nail it all the way to the wall and make sure we buy the top ad and get to a conclusion on our test as fast as we can. But again, because everyone is going to default to 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and everyone almost, I mean, there's a few people that actually get how to do otherwise, but almost everybody always runs the same ad every day of the week. And over time, in higher volume situations, that becomes really, really game-changing, by the way, to recognize that one of your ads might actually do better at different times of day, and one of your ads might actually do better on different days of the week. There's a lot of inefficiency there in time, and so there are ways that you can kind of not really change the number of clicks that you're going to need to buy, and not really change what that's going to cost, but you can change the impact of that by changing the way that you treat it. So you might only run at certain times of day, or you might only run certain days of the week, or certain locations to improve your odds. And so that's really what I want to talk about there. And now let's go ahead and let's do some more ego examples, Leslie.
Yeah. So there's one question that Tim has, and then let's get to another example. So Tim said, "I worry about click fraud. How big a problem is that really?" I think it's market dependent, right?
Yeah, and what you think of as click fraud isn't the same thing that Google thinks of as click fraud. Okay.
Well, true. It's almost the opposite, right? It's like Google.
If I'm your competitor and I type in the search terms and I see your ad and I click it, you think that's click fraud.
Not Google.
But that's not click fraud. That's somebody that did the search and clicked an ad. And so Google isn't going to treat that as anything but somebody that did the search and clicked an ad. Now, if they come up with some kind of an organized program for it, Google has lots of algorithms that try to detect that. And yes, those algorithms can be thwarted. But in general, if you spend millions a month, or well into six figures a month, tools to help you actually try and work for credits on that kind of stuff can be useful. For most of the folks that I know, it's not worth the bother of worrying about it. One, because it gets priced into the market, and two, because most of the time the only solution that you can apply is to do a geographic punch out of where your competitor is actually, because that's where the clicks come from. Right. But for the most part, it's something that really it's priced into the market. There are going to be lots of clicks that don't convert. Fraud clicks are just clicks that don't convert. And so whatever the rate of clicks that do convert and whatever those cost, there's certainly things that you can do to improve the odds, but those things tend to vastly dwarf whatever you might do to try and combat click fraud.
Right. Yeah. So that is interesting. So in general, at the level where most people are spending, click fraud is one of those things that's kind of too small of an issue to really want to be focused on.
Well, if it becomes a big enough issue to kick you out of the market, there's not a whole hell of a lot you can do about it.
There's that. Okay, great.
I mean, what can I do to control that? I can avoid I can avoid having a large number of keywords where there's a large number of things that I need to keep track of. But simply by pursuing profits, I probably would have avoided having a large number of keywords that I have to manage.
Right. Yeah. Good. Okay. Yeah. So there's a couple. One we already talked about caregiving, in-home caregivers, but then the other ones that we. And it seems like it would be a little bit easier than that one. Bath and body products is one that John asked about, and the other one Robin had asked about is hypnosis for relationships.
Okay, so let's do.
And we've actually had clients and past clients, and basically in both of those markets, by the way, are very close to those markets. We have a couple of different folks in our.
Yeah, and those are both significant, I think, keyword research jobs.
Okay.
The one is a little bit easier, the bath and body stuff. If we're talking about a retailer,
yeah,
it's easier because I would just get a shopping campaign running first, and then I would focus search ads on what I made money on with the shopping campaigns.
Sure.
And it's a blind squirrel, literally a blind squirrel. If you actually, did all the other work to set up the campaign and make sure that the feed was going into Google and to give it an initial bid, a blind squirrel could probably make you a profit on shopping ads in most markets right now.
And that's because apparently the larger retailers are not actually hiring blind squirrels.
Well, it's for a lot of reasons, but there's room there. In that Amazon's not playing, and most of the big guys are really just trying to buy backfill inventory. They're not focused on any particular niche or set of keywords. Now you might find that there's one or two in that particular market that's a little bit tougher, but really, I mean, for something like that, you've got search that's going to spread across this broad range of keywords, where you're going to find some of them that are sort of effective and some of them that aren't. And the easiest way to do that is to start with a shopping campaign, and get that up and running, and split the catalog up into ad groups based on keywords and categories and things like that, so that the keyword discovery and ad testing kind of shakes out as you go. And also, I mean, which products sell gives you a good sense of what should be on the landing page. So if I've got a general term like soap gift box, well, which ones of my soap gift boxes through the crucible of shopping ads actually sold better? That's probably the first one that should be on that category page I'm sending people to as a search landing page. And so for retail stuff, if you're legally able to run shopping ads, that's the place to start. And you almost don't need the budget for that, because you can set the budget to whatever you want it to be, and then expand it as you get more profits in.
Interesting. Very, very good.
Right, because I mean, what's the point of a budget? The point of a budget is because you've got a chance to lose it, and so you don't have to put very much at risk to get shopping campaigns up and running. And like I say, most of the shopping campaigns I've seen that are completely unmanaged are nonetheless profitable. They got set up once. There's one ad group with all the products in it with one bid, and it's still working for them. Literally, like exactly the same strategy a blind squirrel would employ, which is to completely ignore the AdWords account and go look for acorns.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And by the way, I mean, you could do something besides acorns, but that there's a lot more that you could do with shopping campaigns by by being a little bit more active and managing them, and a little bit more sensible about how you structure them. But so let's talk about this hypnosis thing. And I'm going to see and this may just illustrate a problem, but I'm going to type in hypnosis, okay? And I'm going to go for the entire United States of America, so I'm going to remove Atlanta. Now, Sherman tried to do that, didn't he? Didn't work very
Yeah, I was
well
going to say
anyway.
removing Atlanta is almost the same as targeting the United States. It's true.
So I'm going to go with the United States, even though that might not be the only market you want to play in. Pick one country at a time and work on that. The differences between us are significant. Okay. You can always have so hypnosis relationship. What does Google forecast if I raise my bid to infinity? Nothing. Pretty close to it.
Well, that's not very encouraging.
Yeah, and that's the problem with hypnosis relationship. You can do the keyword research on this and find out, is there actually
And so this may be
anything there?
you know, one of the things you keep saying, and well, there are a couple particular clients where this is an issue. Is like, you know, I can't force them to search. Right?
No, I
So,
cannot. Now that doesn't mean that they don't search a lot, but what you're dealing with is most likely large numbers of keywords to be able to do any kind of meaningful high scale, high volume testing. And again, that doesn't mean that you can't do well, but you're probably going to want to go over.
But here's my point: it's like nobody is actually typing in hypnosis relationship, right? And so they're not looking for that as
not enough of them. Or by the way, this might also be something that Google privacyizes and right.
Yeah,
they might not let you run remarketing ads for because, oh gosh, we ran into this. They didn't want to let us run. Well, I don't even want to say what it was, but it wasn't a health thing. It was a relationship status thing that they didn't want to let us run remarketing ads for.
Right.
And right, because I mean, you don't know. They might be getting beaten, and then their significant beater might discover that they've been searching for relationship advice, and bad things can happen. Right? Google's not trying to kill anybody here. They're just trying to get rich. And so, really, what we're probably talking about here is targeting things like troubled relationships.
Yeah, so it's a difference between the symptom and the solution, right? So the symptom is relationship problem, the solution is hypnosis. And so people are not necessarily going to be searching for the solution. They'll be searching
right.
for
and
the
so I might
symptom.
use something like I've got a topical thing, and I'm over in the display planner now, just doing horrible random things, right? Um, and I'm looking at what's the available inventory. That is, how much content and how many visitors does that content get? That's about troubled relationships.
A lot.
A lot, like billions of impressions are available.
Carl Sagan numbers, yes.
And you can, with display advertising, you can add in keywords. You can add in all kinds of stuff. You can do demographic filtering, so you can say I'm only targeting males or I'm only targeting females. Probably for hypnosis. Probably.
I don't think it matters. And by the way, so what this does say,
Leslie, I guarantee you that one or the other is more likely to convert.
Oh yeah, I grant.
Whatever the offer is, right? I guarantee one of them is better than the other.
I'll grant that, but here's what I think that one of the chief things is just straight out of the gate, right? Just from the very first page view you did, and now this one is it says that you don't lead with hypnosis because people aren't actually asking that question, right? So that's the first thing.
People aren't asking that question in search, and so what we're talking about now is display and then suggesting a solution, right? Mm-hmm. But your ad better go bang straight to the benefit, right?
Sure, of course, absolutely.
Right. And I mean, more so than if they had searched for relationship hypnosis, you might want to talk about how you're a, AAA accredited by the Automotive Club and the Better Business Bureau and whatever else, right? That's the ads are going to be different. But if we're talking about in content, it's promise them a solution to their problem. And giving them some hint about what it is can help you filter out people that are going to say, no, not hypnosis. I've done that, or I don't believe that stuff. Right? You don't want their clicks. So saying a little bit about what it is, but mostly going straight to the benefit. Now, this is something that we've got a small number of clients that we work with on display advertising campaigns. They are among our higher volume clients. And by the way, there is a blended approach here. So things like hypnosis relationship with a search campaign that uses the display select setting, where you're going to get most of your leads or whatever the heck it is, right, from the display network. But that's a way to kind of blend your keyword targeting with your display advertising in a way that's fairly low risk, right? If you put hypnosis relationship in there, it ain't going to get a bunch of search volume. And so you're mostly targeting display just by keyword there, and you can do that with all kinds of display campaigns. There's lots of different ways to do the targeting. And by the way, this here, if you sort this by the number of impressions per week or by the number of people per week, is what cookies is almost. Right, building strong customer relationships. Well, guess what? At 10 billion impressions, take note, a third of that is about customers. And so what am I going to want when I'm targeting that? A negative match for customer.
Yeah, sure enough.
Dating advice? Well, that's not.
It's like
dating advice. What I want, it depends on what kind of relationship I'm talking about. If I'm doing hypnosis for married people, it's probably not dating advice that I'm going to want to peddle, or even people that are on content that is dating advice, right? We're going to want to be relationship advice. But notice, for women, for men, love relationship, marriage counseling, depending on what you're after, that's what you're really after in terms of what it is, right? If you're dealing with people in crisis, why do people cheat in relationships? Well, 500,000 people a week are reading an article about that, by the way, or I'm sorry, 30 million people a week are reading an article about that 2 dozen times or whatever, right? I mean, that's the difference between cookies and the impressions, but that's really more about the ability to remarket and do interest-based targeting. And by the way, there are interests, right? So in market for dating services, gifts and occasions. So I'll get some hypnosis and send flowers. But
and this actually gets in almost as a segue, almost into another presentation. About how to actually dive into display.
Yeah, and I hadn't meant to talk about display at all today, but since it came up, if you've got the budget and the volume and the size of the opportunity, we may or may not end up working together, but I would be happy to talk to you about the opportunity, and if I can't help you find somebody who can, or at least figure out how you can help yourself. Or at least how to get the testing going so you can figure out if you need help or if it's a no-go. But definitely with stuff like that where you've got kind of your obvious core search terms maybe unbiddable or may as well be unbiddable because the volume is so low, that's when we really have to start looking at the display select network with search or just straight up display campaigns. And you can run display campaigns highly focused and highly targeted. So right, if it's only female that you want, then say it's only female. If it's only male that you want, definitely don't go target unknown when you start your campaign, because that's just whatever. Bring that in later. You see differences between mobile and desktop, where you might want to pick one or the other depending on what you're dealing with. This occurs to me as one that ought to skew mobile, and certainly looks like it skews mobile a little bit. But happy to talk to people. And by the way, before we get to any more questions, I'm going to go ahead and put this up on the screen and get my my AdWords account off of there. For anybody that does want to talk about whatever it is with targeting paid search, or again, if you're talking about something that's really high volume, we're going to use potentially spending 5 figures a month on ads, and that doesn't mean you have to start there, but you need to believe that there's that much potential business in it for you. Let's talk about it. For search campaigns, certainly doesn't need to be that big, and for shopping campaigns, you can start off with a couple $1,000s a month. It's a pretty big budget most of the time to start off with shopping campaigns and get them up and running and working. And after that, the budget really won't matter because budget comes out of profits at that point. So if you want to get in touch with me, Dan@marketersbraintrust.com. Happy to do an assessment with you, talk about what you want. There's no charge for that. We're happy to talk to you and figure out who we should be working with, and if we shouldn't be working with you, who you should be working with, or whether you should do it yourself and how. So let's do questions.
Yeah, I mean, I think we've actually answered them all during the presentation, Dan.
Well,
so I mean, I've been trying
all
to
of them?
Yeah, pretty much. No, I mean they're pretty. Some of them were pretty big questions. So and some of these we've said we've had to bookmark. It's like in-home caregiving. Okay, that's in and some of them we can't really answer in this.
Yeah, I think caregiving is one where there's definitely going to be search, right? That's going to be not a display thing. It's just that I don't know enough about the market to even pretend to do a parlor trick of keyword research.
Yeah. Yeah, and so Art says this recorded, yes. Gosh, I wish that we could just got paid when people ask that question. There's a Hangout. That means Google search, and so
But
it'll be about a day and a half delay before it goes to our YouTube channel, just because we don't post it directly for a variety of reasons we don't need to go into here. But yeah, so about a day, sometimes a little bit longer, but typically a day and a half at most. It'll be up on our YouTube channel. And we'll be adding that, by the way, that was something that was, I think, was sure that it suggested this. Let's make sure that when we'll send out a link to the YouTube channel in the replay link. You'll get an email about that, and so that you'll see where that is. Shira asked, do you help with keyword research as a service? Of course, Dan cut his teeth on that many years ago. We do not do that now. And maybe, Dan, you have somebody to suggest for that, or maybe you don't. I don't know.
Well, I know who used to do it for me, and I know that she still does stuff sometimes for money, but it's just not that hard anymore with the keyword planner once there. I mean, if you can't handle that part of it, just using the tutorial videos that Google uses to show you how to use it, you're probably not the best person to do the rest of it.
Yeah, so I mean, I think it used to be a lot harder, which is the reason you had that keyword research service.
Well, and the main thing was one, very time consuming to do all the stuff that now tools do for us much better. It's really a matter of get the big list and then weed it down based on what's actually relevant to your business, and then get data on that. And the big part of my service was weeding the list down and then getting data, and that's something that's pretty easy for anybody to do now that there's a tool that does the big list for you really fast.
Yeah. Okay. Good. So you just recommend that people self-serve?
Yeah. I mean, watch Google's videos on how to use the keyword planner, but that's 20 minutes, and then really it doesn't get any better than that. There isn't better data available than what you can get from them, unfortunately, and unless you're in some healthcare area where things are so hippied up that you can't even find search terms, but that's pretty rare. I mean, it involves specific diseases and stuff like that get filtered out of the search term data.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Well, let's see. That's great. I think that, so. Let's talk about what we're going to do next week. And so, if you have any more questions, folks, get them in now while we do this little dance at the end. But there's been a couple of things that came up recently, and one in particular I think is probably worthy of surfacing, and that is, the characteristics of a winning blog design for content marketing. That's a question I keep getting. It's one of the ongoing conversations we have with our service clients, and it's also something the prospects have asked. We've actually gotten this on one of our previous Hangouts. We also had that question asked. So
does it include safety tips like don't delete the style sheet?
That would be we could include even that lower level of recommendation, sure. And so, yeah, that's one. I think also, Dan, maybe it surfaced here that from one of the questions. I don't know. Is it worth diving into kind of how you use the display network side of things and to estimate what you do there? I don't know. You think about that for yourself, but unless you guys have anything else in mind, I think maybe we cycle back to the organic side next week and talk about kind of optimizing a blog for content marketing purposes. What do you think of that?
I like that.
Okay.
That sounds like something someone else gets to do.
I was going to say, just because who gets nominated to do it, I think is probably the, because obviously it would be Corey, right? That's who I was thinking of right off the top of my head.
Shoo.
He's shaking his head. Michelle wiping her brow. No, I'll take this one. And so,
I'm just here to add some class to the joint.
Yeah, right. With unicorns farting rainbows. That's what we call class, as opposed to Dan's black and white image. Let's see. Sharon said it's for potential AdWords clients. not for you personally. Sure, we knew it wasn't you. Don says thanks. Thanks for a great webinar, and Robin seems to think that blog optimization would be a good idea too. So thanks for your comments on that. So okay.
I mean, whoever is planning on building the campaign should be doing the keyword research.
Yeah, right. Because otherwise they're just going to throw it over the wall, right?
So I mean, if they're not capable of running the campaigns, then they probably aren't capable of doing the keyword research. But if they are, they are. So
yeah, and vice versa. Indeed. Yeah, good deal. All right. Well, thanks.
Sure, could do it.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. And so thanks. I think she doesn't want to. She was looking for.
Yeah, well, nobody wants to, but that's why I don't do it anymore, pal.
I mean, I kind of saw through the question.
You can't do the time, don't do the crime, you know?
Yeah. So, yeah, exactly. All right. Well, thanks everybody for showing up, and this has been another hangout with the Brain Trust. And like I said, in another day and a half, this will be up. You'll get a message, an email from us with the replay link. And join us next week, and we'll talk about optimizing your blog for content marketing purposes, showing real examples from our own blogs and from other people who do not as good as us, but the same kind of idea. All right, very good. Take care, everybody. We'll see you next week. Stop broadcast.